Alright, what's up guys? First off, a couple of things. Sorry about this. It looks like someone punched me in the eye, but I don't know what I did. I woke up and my eyes were still swollen. A couple other things, I might look into the camera a little bit at myself. I'm not used to doing this yet, and I also have my notes about what I want to talk about in the video here. So if I keep shifting down shadily, it's not because I'm being shady, it's because I'm looking at my notes. Alright, so you probably clicked on this video because you wanted to find what results I had from this experiment that I did. So I think it makes sense for me to probably take a step back and explain why I wanted to do this and all the other things that you need to consider to make this video as informative as possible. So with that, I'll get into, a couple things first. So one, the point of why I'm doing this, a couple of things about my stats, the reasons why I began the experiment, the basis of the experiment, the things that we did to control for certain aspects, and then observations somewhere down the line, and then other things I came across. So if this is a little bit rough, I apologize, but this is just how I'm going to do it, so you guys get everything and it's not edited or anything like that. So the point of the video, so I've been bodybuilding for about 5 to 6 years now, naturally. And I keep seeing these things about vegan bodybuilding, this person went vegan for 3 years, saw the best results of his life. This fitness YouTuber went vegan this time, and then now he had made like 15 pounds of gains, and all lifts went really high and magnificent results, basically. And it got me thinking about, why is this kind of happening? I understand people are moving towards veganism from a kind of health and moral perspective, that there's a lot of this movement, and I get that, and I understand why people would want to do it. But when it starts to go into fitness, that's when I kind of got what's going on here? Is there a correlation? And so when you see guys and I'll link all these people, but if you see guys like Nimai Delgado, who is an IFBB pro men's physique bodybuilder who has an amazing physique, this guy has probably some of the best genetics I've ever seen, especially his bicep peak. It's just absolutely phenomenal. This guy, people like John Venus, who has been a very big proponent of vegan fitness for a while now. These guys have shown phenomenal progress and phenomenal gains, aesthetically, strength, everything, since going vegan. And so it got me thinking, okay, so if I tried it for a good period of time, let's see what happens. So the reason why I did it was because of trying to figure out the truth. Right, so it's either one, there's something that this industry is not telling us from a vegan fitness perspective, or two, these guys have stumbled across the best kept bodybuilding secret in history that everyone should just hop on. So that's basically what I wanted to do. I just wanted to figure out what was going on, and then quite possibly what the truth is. So with that, I'll go into a couple other things. And a quick disclaimer before we move on, my roommate just came in and made a really good point. This is not by any means a scientific experiment. It's not evidence-based, it is purely just my observations on something that my brother and I decided to try out. It's not supposed to sway any opinion, it's not supposed to help you make any decision, it's purely just what I did and what I noticed about myself and what worked for me. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first things first, a little bit of information about myself and some stats. So I'm 25, my twin brother is also 25, naturally because we're twins, but we are genetically identical, and we have been lifting and bodybuilding consistently for 5 to 6 years, I'd say, give or take a couple months. We have done this completely natural. We have not touched steroids or any other anabolic compounds or anything that would augment our hormones or physically change the way that we are, other than regular strength training and diet. We do take supplements, so I regularly take creatine, protein supplements, BCAAs, pre-workouts, all that kind of stuff, the regular stuff. And then we also have competed in the past on amateur, within amateur NPC shows. So the first one I did was in 2015 in Chicago, where I placed 3rd in my class. My brother placed 5th. And then another one in 2017 in LA, where I placed 1st in my class and my brother placed 2nd. So you can say that we are very much neck to neck. We are both young professionals. We have our own jobs that are outside of fitness. We both do well for ourselves. So fitness is not our means of making a living. It's just purely a hobby and a passion of ours, and something that we just really enjoy doing. A lot of our progress, I would say, is a tribute to our ability to learn quickly, be more efficient at what we do, and then also being more knowledgeable and hardworking than your average Joe. So our success, I would say, is a tribute to that, and purely that. And then outside of that, we have simply nothing else to gain from this video. We just want to figure out the truth. So with that being said, I'm gonna go into the reasons why I went vegan. Okay, so why I initially thought about going vegan. So outside of this experiment itself, I'm not morally or ethically tied to the vegan movement, meaning I do like animals and I do care about them, but I don't know enough about the treatment of animals and all that to be completely motivated to go vegan because of my love for animals. I do love them, but I don't really know enough about it. So I'm not motivated in that sense to go vegan. Another reason why I thought about it was at the start of this program, right after my competition, I had really bad cystic acne, and so I started a treatment called Accutane, which is a really high dose of vitamin A that you take over the course of 6 to 8 months, that in pill form. And basically what it does is it clears your skin through that period of time permanently. And then there were certain studies that showed that Accutane worked worse when you ate certain things and worked better when you took some things out of your diet. And among those things was whey protein, dairy, some meats, and all that. So in my mind, if I wanted to make this treatment worth it, which was something that I've been wanting to do for a while, I thought, oh well, why don't I just cut out a lot of this stuff? Another thing was when I started thinking about it right after a competition, I had digestive issues with chicken and beef specifically. They kept giving me acid reflux after my competition, so I couldn't process those well. I was lactose intolerant. I've been lactose intolerant for a couple of years now, and eggs just destroy my stomach. Like, it makes me so gassy and it smells so bad that I was like, you know what? I'm fine with cutting all this crap out. So I cut it all out, and then the last reason I would say is I was just curious. I wanted to see what happened. Also, I wanted to see if I can still make a good level of gains relative to everyone else if I was on a vegan diet. And so those are the reasons pretty much why I went. So, you know, not motivated by monetarily or anything like that, just purely this is what I chose to do based on the things that I had. This was something that I wanted to do. Okay, so the basis of the experiment. So I wanted to make this as fair and useful as possible. So the way that we did it was pretty specific to get as close to it as a twin study as possible to prove whether or not you can do fitness and bodybuilding on a vegan diet. So I decided that I would go vegan, my brother would not. So he would still have meat, protein, and all that, and I would only function off of plant-based protein. My twin brother and I both started about roughly the same stats. So we started pretty much a month after our second competition in 2017. So we both looked like this during our competition. And then we basically started at around similar weight. It's like 150-ish, give or take, at 5 to 6% body fat. We were genetically identical, so our genetics are pretty much the same, and we are at the same level. We came 1 and 2 in that competition, so we were pretty much as identical as you can get. Our points was like 1 off, so the same as we could possibly get. And from there, we would just go off on our different tangents in terms of diet. So I went on vegan, he went on meat, and we both tried to aim for about 150 grams to 200 grams of protein. And for a lot of bodybuilders, you'll know that this is quite a lot. Like, you have to eat a lot of food, especially whole foods, if you want to get this amount of protein. But we did that. That's what we tried to aim for. And then from our perspective, we were both bulking at that point. We weren't really trying to stay lean or anything. We were just trying to eat, gain weight back, put on size, put on aesthetics for the next time that we compete. And then the question was, how strict was I on my vegan diet? And I would say 100% every single time that I would do it, I would stick to the diet. I do have 3 exceptions, however, that it did follow. So in most situations, I do things 100%. I don't do anything half-assed. This is just the way that I am. And then I would go completely strict. So not like, ooh, I was gonna ease into it for a couple weeks or anything like that. No, I went boom, this is what I was going to do from now on, with 3 exceptions. And those 3 exceptions are: 1, if the restaurant or the place that I was eating at messed up my order and they still gave me something like eggs or something like that, I will still eat it, because at that point I didn't want to waste my money and I didn't want to waste their time. I didn't want to do that. I have more important things in life than to worry about that. So that was 1. 2, if the food contained the essence of animal products. So if it was like broth, if it was like, you know, they put in, you know, like some sort of vegan seasoning or something like that, I still ate it, because at the end of the day, that's not meat and that's not protein, that's not fibrous protein. So that I still ate. And then 3, if there was absolutely no vegan options around, like literally I was in a place that had no vegan options, it was only just like meat or, you know, candy or something like that, then I would eat the meat. And so you would expect that this kind of situation didn't happen that frequently. It happened maybe once or twice, and so I had to eat meat maybe once or twice in those situations. So with that, those were my stipulations, and then we basically went on this journey, and it lasted about 7 months, and I'll explain why. Okay, so here is the meat of my observations. So the way that I kind of approached looking at how my body changed in response to the diet change was basically more or less 3 main categories. The first one is, how did my strength respond? Did my lifts go up or down based on the change? How I looked, so the aesthetics of my physique. Did it change that much based on the diet? Was I looking better? Was I getting leaner? Anything like that that I was starting to notice. And then 3, just my overall feeling of health, how good I felt essentially, whether it's, you know, having energy throughout the day, or if I was getting sick or anything like that, which is kind of a general observation category that I had. So about 1 to 2 months in, really from a strength perspective, it immediately went down. So everything that I lifted in, most of my main lifts, so my deadlifts, my squat, and my bench press, right off the bat, it went down about 10 to 15 pounds in terms of strength. And then at some points it would fluctuate back up, but really I wasn't able to get any stronger off of this new diet that I had. Like, I was eating a lot. I was like kind of almost force feeding myself as much as I can, and from a protein perspective, I tried eating a lot of spinach, a lot of beans, which I found was not really good for my stomach at the end of the day, because I just kept getting horrible gas. So I switched away from beans, but I did a lot of like quinoa, brown rice, and I started eating a lot of tofu, a lot of processed soy, so tofu, tempeh, seitan, a lot of that stuff. I was force feeding myself. Even when I was eating all this food and all this extra calories, my strength wasn't going up. So that was the first thing I noticed. Aesthetically, it still looked pretty good. I still felt pretty full. I went on vacation and I looked like this, so I still felt big, and I still felt like I was rebounding pretty well. Like I was able to stay somewhat lean and then put on some pounds. And in terms of feeling healthy, I felt no different. Like honestly, from changing from meat to eating just vegetables, there was like almost no difference in the way that I felt healthy-wise. You know, like I felt good. You know, I was eating a lot more fruits and vegetables, so I felt cleaner, but really it didn't feel that much different. It felt okay. And so I kept going at this for, you know, in the next couple months. I was working, I was traveling, all that, just going out about my regular life. And then about 6 months down the line was when I really started to see kind of a change in the way that I felt. And so 6 months is not a small time. I didn't experiment for a couple months or a couple weeks or, you know, 1 month like some other people do. I had the mindset that I was gonna do this forever. So after 6 months, things started to change a little bit. Third, strength was at an all-time low. I don't think I've ever only reps like 65 pounds on an incline bench or 70 pounds like that since like college, like 3 or 4 years ago. So my strength was getting really low, and because I was getting such dips in the strength, I thought, okay, that's fine, I'll keep the volume up by doing more reps. So I started doing lower weights but a lot more reps, and then it just wasn't progressing. Like I just wasn't progressing as much as I thought I should have been. Because of some other factors, I also started to get injured more. I just felt like my elbow was feeling a little bit more pain, my wrist was feeling a little bit more pain, my shoulders started to get a lot of pain, my left shoulder specifically. I've had pains in my shoulders before, but this nagging pain started about 3 or 4 months in, and it just did not go away. Like, it only got worse, and it only made my strength get weaker and weaker. So at that point, my strength was just not going to progress any further. The next thing was, after 6 months, I was getting noticeably smaller. So from my competition to my peak point around when I went on vacation, I started to get just noticeably less aesthetic. Like, my size just reduced. Like, I downsized almost to the point where I was like, man, do I even lift? Like, I look like this in the morning. And then at this point, my brother, other people that I knew, people that I lived with, are starting to notice that I was physically getting smaller. I just couldn't keep up with the mass, and when I took photos, I was not proud of the way that I looked. And I was still force feeding myself. I was still eating a lot of food, and still aiming for 150 to 200 grams of protein every single day, but I just wasn't progressing, and I wasn't getting stronger, I wasn't looking better. And from a health perspective, this is where the interesting thing is, I started to feel worse. 2 ways, mentally and physically. So mentally, I was constantly stressed. Like, I just couldn't stop thinking about whether or not I was making gains anymore. Like, I would go to bed and wake up stressed because I had some sort of a nightmare where I like lost all my gains. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but I woke up some periods of time where I had nightmares about just like losing all my gains. So I was like mentally stressed out about all of this. And as a bodybuilder, that's like your biggest fear. Like, you just don't want to lose muscle, right? So mentally, I was just off. Like, I just kept thinking about it. It was like occupying my mind way too much. And physically, I started getting sick a lot more than I frequently do. Like, I started dating a girl like about a couple months ago, and then I got more sick in the last couple months on the diet than I had in years. And I think one of the biggest things that I ended up getting, which ultimately culminated to why I stopped, was I started getting stomach ulcers. Basically, the peptic ulcers that developed in my stomach. I didn't get one, I got 2 after about 6 to 7 months in. And when I went to the doctor, I had to go to the hospital I was just getting stomach cramps after cramps, and I couldn't take the pain anymore. And then when I went to the doctor, they said, you know, like, there's a multitude of factors that contribute to it. Primarily stress exacerbates it. So for me, having the added stress of thinking about, I mean, I was stressed about work already, but having the added stress about thinking about whether or not I was making gains, that just contributed to it. And then the second thing was the diet change had just completely turned my body biology upside down, so that my body was just responding to it in a way. And so the way that my doctor, sorry, there's dust, and so the way that my doctor explained it was, look, you're a bodybuilder with an extreme lifestyle where you have an extreme work schedule, but you also lift very extremely heavy every single day. Your body requires something more than what you have been supplying it, and that's why your body's taking the strain. And so from a health perspective, it just did not seem feasible anymore. And remember, when I started this experiment, I started with the mindset that I was gonna do this forever because there's so many benefits from it, right? Like, I think it's well documented that when you go on a plant-based diet, you can lower your risk of cancers or you know, like long-term negative mental effects and stuff like that, you know, it's well documented. But for my immediate health, it just was not worth it anymore. And so in my mind, I was not feeling better, I was feeling worse, and I was not growing. And as a bodybuilder, I need to keep growing, and I have plans to go pro 2019 or 2020, so I just had to basically stop. So after about 7 months into a vegan diet, I decided to stop, and I transitioned back to eating meat. And so far, I've bounced back. A lot of the pains that I felt in my shoulders and my joints, essentially gone. And then I started to eat, I started putting on weight, and I bounced back up to my original weight before competition, and I've even exceeded it at 5 pounds now, so I put on a lot more mass, and then my lifts are starting to go up again. I mean, the only worst thing is that after eating meat, I notice I get sleepy after lunch a bit more frequently. You know, whereas before I didn't really have that kind of sleepiness after lunch, but now it came back. You know, to me that's not that big of a deal. So those are just my general observations, and I think for me it didn't make sense for a couple reasons. So here is my conclusion. So my conclusion to the question whether or not you can bodybuild on a vegan diet. I know this is not going to be conclusive, but it really depends on whether or not you have complete control over your diet. For me, I did not. I travel almost every week from my hometown in Los Angeles to wherever my client is, every single week. So I wasn't in control of where I was eating and what kinds of foods I was eating. I was able to control how much I was eating and the choices that I made, and to some extent I'm better at reading calories and the content of food better than most people. So I was able to control it somewhat, but I wasn't able to prepare every meal. I wasn't able to count all my calories. I wasn't able to get everything that I wanted at all times. So for me, I didn't have that control. So with that, I mean, I couldn't really get the optimal results. Based on my observations though, I work hard as well. I am pretty strict on my diet most of the time. I wasn't able to achieve results like what Nimai was basically supposedly got. Now, in my mind, here's kind of what I'm concluding. They have complete control over their diet, so they're able to eat everything that they need. That's great. But they have an ulterior motive because they want to promote the vegan lifestyle. There is a reason for them to tell people to eat that way, because ethically and morally, that's one of the reasons why they're doing it. So if they can convince a large population of fitness people who, by and large, are probably the biggest consumers of animal protein, right? Bodybuilders eat massive amounts of chicken and fish every single day. If they can convince these people that you don't need to eat animal protein and then to have these fitness successes, then convert them over to a vegan diet, they've just saved a bunch of animals, right? So it's, for them, it makes sense to promote it. However, did they get the results that they had based purely from this diet? I extremely doubt it. Like a lot of you people who know from a bodybuilding perspective, someone who has this level of competitive physique, it's just very, very, you know, unlikely for them to, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very, very with a low probability that they've achieved it naturally. So from my perspective, there's something else that they're not telling us about what they're doing with their fitness lifestyle, and that the reason why they're hiding it is because they want to promote this lifestyle. And I get it, you know, this is what they do, this is their livelihood, this is their mission in life, this is what they want to do, and I get it. But my problem is not giving the full truth to people. And then for someone like myself, like, you know, I even reached out to people and asked them, look, hey, can you help me out here? Like, I'm meeting these problems with my vegan diet. I still want to succeed in terms of bodybuilding. Can you help me out? No one ever got back to me. I had asked for off-season coaching to get more strength and power from food. Nobody got back to me. There's just not enough resources out there. And then another thing that you guys have to remember is that some of these guys who claimed that after going natty, they've had, after claiming vegan, they had all these tremendous results. If you are a lifter of 5 to 6 years and you're able to all of a sudden gain strength like 20, 30 pounds, put on so much muscle in a short period of time, that's very, very suspect of something else going on. Like, it's just not that easily done. And unless there's something in their vegan plant-based diet that is causing this, it's probably not because of that. So based on my study and the way that I did it with my twin brother, I think this is probably the closest that you can have to an you know, I wouldn't say evidence-based, but an observational-based conclusion on whether or not you can bodybuild on a vegan diet. And I think, to my own observation, that it's not possible. Unfortunately, it's not possible. There are a lot of things good about the diet itself, but for someone like a bodybuilder who puts a lot of strain on the body and just has more requirements from nutrition than just regular people, then it's not possible. If you're a regular person and you don't care about muscle size and you don't care about all these gains, it's perfectly fine. You'll probably extend your life for a very long time. You probably won't get all these cancers or all these conditions that eating meat will give you. However, no, you can stay thin, you can stay lean. It's just not going to be conducive for a bodybuilder. So that's my conclusion. Hopefully this is somewhat insightful for you guys. It's not the most scientific because honestly I don't know that much. I just really wanted to see how it worked for myself. So if you enjoyed this, just give it a like, share it, or whatever. I'm not really going to be posting stuff like this regularly. I like fitness, but it's not really my job or anything like that. But hopefully this was just interesting to you, and that you learned a little bit something, or I may or may not have informed some sort of a decision that you had if you were thinking about going vegan or not. Okay, peace.